This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Twenty-four minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. Robin, when I was in school, I have a story to tell you. I have a really clear memory of something that happened. I was in seventh grade, I'm going to guess. It was junior high school, so that was 7th, 8th, and 9th in my years. Anyway, so I was in a social studies class. I was not good in this class. I just, I don't know if nowadays you would say I had attention deficit disorder, but my attention just was deficient for sure. Anyway, I remember I was I drifted off someplace and I was daydreaming about something and the teacher was just talking and I had no clue. I wasn't even there. I wasn't even in the room, Mm-hmm. And then this was on Long Island and he started talking about Westbury Music Fair. And he had seen the singer Melanie. And at the time, Melanie was a huge star, and so my brain came right back into the classroom. All of a sudden, my attention was really on him. So I think I had selective attention. I think I was able to pick what I was paying attention to. In today's world, we have labels for things, and I don't know that would have got a label or not. Dr. Edward M. Hallowell has written a really interesting book. It's actually #1 right now on Amazon in a couple of different categories. Specifically the learning disabilities category. Number 9 in learning disabilities in the Kindle version. Number 19 in the attention deficit disorder category. How about that? And psychiatry, huge category. Number 22 in psychiatry. So this is a very, very successful book, getting lots of great reviews from the readers who have left their commentary. Because I come from a crazy family. That's the title of the book. The Making of a Psychiatrist. Interesting story. It sounds like he didn't have the happiest of childhoods, though. Mm-hmm. He is a leading authority on ADHD. He's the host of the podcast Distraction. Oh, my gosh. That kind of goes along with my little story, doesn't it? He's the founder of the Hallowell Centers for Cognitive and Emotional Health. And I hope I haven't lost his attention yet. Dr. Hallowell, good morning, sir. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Good morning. I'm still with you.
My biggest fear when I was in school was that the teacher would actually call on me during one of those drifting moments. I don't know.
I would. One of those brain fog moments. Yes.
Yeah. You know what I wonder though is it not all of us? Do we not all do this? I often thought that maybe it's just everybody does that, right?
Of course. I mean, one of the great things about mental life is your mind doesn't have to be where your body is. You're allowed to leave the room anytime you want to. The mind is sort of like a toddler on a picnic. It goes wherever curiosity leads it, and with no regard for danger or authority. And you really can't force yourself to pay attention to anything because the guard goes off duty,
And even things I'm interested in. I'll be listening.
Sure.
I'll be listening to the radio in the car, for example. And the reason I use the radio as an example is because you can't rewind it. You can't.
Right.
and I'll be really interested in the topic, but then I'll find myself drifting, and I'll come back. Oh man, what did he say? I wasn't paying attention.
Or your wife talking to you. You oh my God, honey, you can't rewind her, and then she gets kind of offended when you missed the last 3 sentences, it just happens. We can't force ourselves. We really. And nobody's really figured out, why do you pay attention to what? Why do you drift? Why do you focus? I mean, we have some clues, but what constitutes salience? Advertisers are constantly trying to figure that out. We know some things, sex, fear, loud, but it's a wonderfully interesting question. Why do we focus on what we focus on?
Sex is an interesting one. I think when I was younger, I mean, pretty much everybody got my attention.
But the older you get, fear becomes more.
You think that's what it is?
Fear and fear sells. I mean, you know, the media just pumps fear all the time. The world is not nearly as dangerous as you know, the media would have you believe.
Maybe I'm more romantic than that. I always thought it was love. I thought.
Yes, love, but love is a tough sell. You know, I wrote a book on forgiveness. And of all my books, I've written 20 books. Of all my books, that one has sold the least. It was called Dare to Forgive. I always thought if I wanted to write a bestseller, I should write a book called Get Even.
There you go. But then you have the women in the relationships, and they'll fall in love with a fellow, and then they'll get married, and all of a sudden they're trying to change him.
Yep. That's such a losing battle. You know, it's you know, rescuing someone, changing someone. It just doesn't work.
All right. I have a question to ask you based on your biography that I read a little bit of it. But when I was 1975, so I would have been 20. I had a psychic who pulled me off to the side and said he had some things to tell me, and he did, and some of them happened. And you have in your story hearing a voice that you would be a psychiatrist. Is that the same thing? I mean, and I don't know that I can vouch for anybody who says they're psychic. It's just that this one guy, and he didn't. It wasn't like he was like on the boardwalk and he was sitting behind a crystal ball. It was just some guy. It was just some guy. Yeah. So, I mean, is that what happened to you? Did you have a psychic moment when you were a kid?
Well, no, it's my one psychotic moment in my life, and I mentioned it in the book. It really did happen. I was about 10 years old, and I had this voice in my head. It wasn't someone outside of me. It was in my head, and it said, "You should become a psychiatrist." And I barely knew what a psychiatrist was, you know, but that was the word the voice used. And I heard the voice, and I sort of said, "Oh," and I kind of more or less forgot about it. But here I am now at age 68 talking to you on the telephone. I'm a psychiatrist, so it must have had some impact. Well, I mean, I don't know.
And maybe that's what I was thinking. Maybe you were psychic in some way, or maybe
or you know, some Old Testament prophet. I don't know. But you know.
But you were an observer of your own family, an observer of others, and you knew something wasn't right, something wasn't wrong. So you felt different emotions within you, but you tried to fix that and then tried to fix your family.
Yep. I wanted to, and you know, this book it really is a celebration. It's not a woe is me book at all. I loved my family, with the exception of my stepfather, who was a very troubled man. But I loved them. They were drunk and crazy most of the time, but I loved them. They were very wonderful in their various ways. They were also troubled, but one of the hopes of writing this book is to blow the lid off of stigma. That it's time we celebrate the differences. And these recent suicides, I think they happened because those people didn't feel permission to get help. They felt shame and they felt fear, and so they kind of hung back and didn't get the full help that's available. I think we just need to come out of the woodwork with this stuff. I mean, most families have some craziness in them, and because I come from a crazy family, the implied question is who doesn't? There's a lot of it, and most people just don't get help because they're a little bit ashamed of it, and no one's ashamed to get help for their arthritis or their low back pain. Why not get help for your anxiety disorder or your depression or it's real common, and depression is the number one cause of lost work days in the world, and most people don't get help for it, and so I just wanted to I wanted to be very open. I'd walk naked down the street in this book, and why not just let everybody be open about it, and because there's way more help out there than people get. That in no field of medicine is the science further ahead of the consumption of it than in the field of psychiatry. So I thought if I just told my own personal story as openly as I could, others might feel permission to, to...
I love that. By the way, if you want to walk naked down the street, come to Key West. They do it all the
time. You bring some of your teachers to the forefront in the book.
Yes, they really saved my life. I love teachers. I mean, they literally saved my life. I mean, by rights I shouldn't be here at all, and they saved my life. First grade teacher, fifth grade teacher, my 12th grade English teacher who got me to write a novel, my professor in college who told me don't get a PhD, go to medical school instead. These people truly pivotal, truly saved my life, and they stepped in where my parents were unable to, and it made just a huge difference to me.
It's interesting that you say that, because some people actually credit ignoring advice as the reason they became successful, as opposed to following advice. It sounds like some of the people who you are holding up as very influential in your life gave you advice that you followed. And not that that's any better of a path than somebody who says, I was given advice to never enter into the world of whatever, and that's what I chose, and now you hear these stories all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got, sitting at the desk I'm sitting at right now, my two teachers are a picture of them looking down on me, the professor I mentioned at Harvard, and my high school English teacher. I have them in a photograph next to each other.
I love that.
Looking down on me right now. And I love them dearly, and they changed my life forever.
And that English teacher is the one that had the Latin phrase, the evil one or something?
Yes, Fred Tremallo. There's three evils. He said, yes, Tremallo.
You speak about death in your book and what an impact it had, even though you did not really know the person who died.
Which one now?
Yeah, that was, the gentleman that you were reading about, and he authored a book, and then the son died. Am I getting it confused with something else?
I can't place that.
Okay, I have to go back in my head and come back with it later.
Yeah.
Because that was very impactful.
Yeah. Oh no, you mean my Les Haven's son who and I wrote him a note about his son who had died, and then he responded to my note and how much that mattered.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. No, that was and again, that he responded to my note.
That was touching.
Just mattered the world to me. I mean, these little things that maybe wouldn't matter as much to someone else just mattered so much to me, because I didn't get that at home. And so when these father figures, if you will, responded to me, I lapped it up like a hungry little dog, and just meant the world to me, and I just
I love that. I find myself, I'm 63, and I find myself, when I talk to young people, and they, when you're 63, as you know, they can be 43 and they feel young to me now. So
right.
But I have, some people, every once in a while, I have the opportunity to just kind of listen to somebody, maybe in my family or maybe not, and I'll just try to, even though I see like some crazy decisions that they've made, I'll always try to give them some positive, confident statements, and you never know if that's not going to be the thing that helps them hang on. It's just it is an interesting thing if you think that we're all in some way imperfect and therefore we could be potentially crazy. At least you can say, don't worry, it's going to work out for you. I think it makes a big difference coming from an older person, and I don't know why, but I think as humans we sort of look up to people who are older than us.
It's a natural tendency, and you're so right. We really need encouragement, particularly these days. I mean, and I think in the field of mental health, we do a bad job of it. We so dwell on pathology, and I think embedded in almost every one of the conditions we diagnose, there's all kinds of strengths. And our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln, had major depression. And the greatest statesman of the 20th century, arguably, Winston Churchill, had major depression, bipolar disorder, probably, and severe alcohol or substance abuse. And so it's hard to find someone who has great talent who doesn't have one or another of these conditions.
Right.
I think we need to start, say, embracing them and saying, yeah, okay, you have these challenges, but look at the talents. And so what I do is
Right.
I try to promote the talents and
Right.
and have the talents crowd out the problems,
Right,
and rather than dwelling on the problems. And I'm big on encouragement. I'm big on identifying talents and then let that drive out the problems. I think we do too much, identifying problems and trying to analyze them instead of identifying strengths and trying to promote them.
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No,
for
you
that.
didn't. You didn't.
I just think that one of the things we men do to young girls, and I don't mean anything inappropriate by that way. It's not it's not the Me Too thing I'm going to talk about. It's when we try to give positive statements, and we're basically saying, you're such a pretty girl, you can do anything you want to do, and you think you would never say that to a boy. You're such a handsome guy, you could be anything. You would say, you are such a great, you're so good at math, you could be anything. That kind of thing. That's a mistake I think we make as well intended as it might be. It's probably not that helpful. Right.
As if all you need is beauty in order to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But to be encouraging and these days where there's so much insecurity, there's so much fear. In fact, the world is your oyster if you're in your 20s or 30s, and there's so much opportunity, there's so much possibility, and I think young people need to hear that. And with this rash of suicides and school shootings, I think it's all about insecurity. I think it's all about disconnection. I think it's all about people feeling isolated. And so what we need to do is help people connect, help welcome people into the group. And I don't think people need more therapy. I just think they need more connection. They need more friendships, need more groups, need more, come on in, join us,
And I think even the more mature people, too. I mean, they raise a family, their children are growing, sometimes they live out of a different state, and then you find yourself living in an apartment all by yourself. And if you don't make the effort to go out every day just to the grocery store to pick up a couple items, just to chat with the person at the register or say hello, you keep sequestering yourself indoors. I think that really is harmful.
You're so right. You are so right. I mean, the Surgeon General named loneliness as the number one medical problem, not heart disease, not obesity, loneliness. But it's very curable. I prescribe get a dog for all my patients before I prescribe Prozac. Get a dog, go to church or synagogue, make friends with the barista at Starbucks. Just what you said, chat with the guy behind the cash register. Connection is free. You can walk down the street and smile at somebody walking past you. You may not get a smile back because people are very suspicious, but just the act of smiling, will make you feel better. And just go out. You're so right. What you just said is profound, and it's social isolation is really bad for you. It kills people, and never worry alone is my motto. I mean, and if you're alone in your apartment, and you happen to be listening right now, just resolve, to get up and just walk down the street to the store, buy a newspaper, and say hi to the guy or the gal who sells it to you. You'll feel better, honest to God. The exercise you get walking to buy it, the human interaction you have picking it up and walking back, you'll feel better. And then come Sunday or Saturday, resolve to go to whatever religious. You don't have to believe in God to do that, by the way. You just show up. It's free group therapy.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. We have a program in Florida for juvenile offenders. That if the judge deems it's appropriate for them. In other words, some of the kids don't go in these programs, but some do.
Right.
And they are work programs that are like camping and canoeing, and it sounds like a field trip from the outside, but what's really happening, because I've been there, I've been to the camps. These kids are cutting down trees. They're working together to build campsites, and they're working together to cook food and catch fish and things like that. And it's that community, I think.
Yes.
That at the end of the whole thing makes them better able to handle the real world.
Absolutely. Emphasis on together. It's so true. I mean, that may be their first experience of doing something together.
Yeah.
And something constructive together. That is so true. That is brilliant that they have them doing that. And they...
Another one, when you hear about a veteran who comes out of the military having served the rest of us, and now he's in the private sector, you know what they end up doing? They volunteer for everything. They're always out there. They're putting the sandbags down when there's a flood.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just
they want to get back into a group.
Yeah.
They want to get back into. They love their buddies. I mean, that's what the service is all about. It's not so much love of country; it's love of their buddies. They're willing to die for their buddies. So they're looking for more buddies. I mean, that's what we need. We need connection. That's what the country is starving for right now. We need to connect, and the more we connect, we'll have less suicides and school shootings and depression and substance use.
You're really doing a great service, making yourself so public and writing this book, because you've had to overcome everything, and you could easily backslide, but you don't allow yourself to.
Yeah, and my tool is connection. Believe me, it starts with my wife and my kids and my patients. I connect with them, and they don't realize it, but they're as important to me as I am to them. And then I happen to believe in God and go to church, and that matters a lot to me too. And our dog died. We're getting a new one tomorrow. So the loss of our dog was really sad, but now we have a new one coming in tomorrow.
Because I come from a crazy family, The Making of a Psychiatrist, that's the title of the book. It is #1 in a couple of different categories on Amazon. I have a copy of the book here. I think the book speaks to all of us, because there's always going to be a place for us to make a difference in somebody else's life. So this is maybe not necessarily to me, the crazy person, whether I am one or not, as much as it is to me, the person going through something that maybe I can make a difference for.
Yes. It's about connecting and about how we can make a difference with each other.
Doctor, I love this conversation. I love your view on things, and I don't know if God intended for you to go through the horrible things you went through in order to get to this place. But whatever got you to this place is definitely, as Robin said, making a contribution to the rest of us. So I have a copy of the book. If I have a listener who wants the one that was sent to me, call me. It's yours, and it'll be waiting for you here. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon. Do you have a website dedicated to yourself or to the book?
Yeah, drhallowell.com.
drhallowell.com. That's easy enough. Okay, I'm looking on Amazon if I can figure it out.
DR.
Oh, yeah, and you have an
Hallowell.
audiobook and Kindle. They're both. It's available in all three forms. Well, Dr. Hallowell, thank you. Have a great weekend. I love this conversation, and thank you for taking time to talk to us about the book.
Me too. Thank you very much, both of you.
You are welcome. All right, we'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Friday, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm in some areas, the high 88 to 92, and partly cloudy Friday night, low 74 to 78. Saturday, clouds will limit sunshine with a shower and thunderstorm in the area, the high 88 to 92. Sunday, times of sun and clouds with a thunderstorm in a few places, high 89 to 93. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster. With one House immigration bill voted down and a vote on another bill delayed till next week due to lack of support, President Trump says don't bother.
The president tweeting Republicans should stop wasting their time on immigration until after we elect more senators and members of Congress in November. Meanwhile, the so-called zero tolerance policy at the border may be changing. The U.S. Attorney's Office is reportedly dismissing cases in which parents were charged with illegally entering or re-entering the country.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. 140 campers and counselors are rescued by helicopter from a Bible camp in Montana cut off by flooding. They've been rescued